So Bambu Lab have now officially pretty much recalled all of the Bambu Lab A1s. So in this video, I'm just going to cover off what that means, what you need to be looking out for, and I guess a little bit of my thoughts on it as well. So if you're not up to speed on what's been going on, basically the Bambu Lab A1 printer had this cable on the back of it that connects to the main body to the heat bed. And what they'd found is either in shipping or when users set up the printer, if there's any sort of like strain put onto that cable, where it attaches to the bottom there, it can cause this like kink in the cable, which can then cause overheating or damage to it, which could potentially lead to fire. So it's a pretty serious issue there if you have a damaged cable. Now, basically what started to happen was you were able to do the choice where you could go on there and you could request a replacement heat bed to come out to you, and then you'd be able to fix it all yourself, and you'd also get a roll of filament with that. Or alternatively, you could request a replacement printer instead, but there's like a big backlog of like 2 to 3 months, as you can imagine, because there were a lot of people requesting these. Now, as it transpires over the sort of week since that had started, what started to happen was that more and more things were going back and forth, there were different things coming out, and in the end Bambu Lab basically sent out an email to everybody saying that this printer is now on active recall. If you start up the machine and it doesn't update as well, it will come up on the screen. So they've really gone out of their way to make sure that everybody knows. So they've emailed all the people who've ordered them, I guess where they've got the email addresses for these, and also, like I said, on the machine when you start it up after the update, it comes up with a little display there saying your machine is currently in active recall. Please, scan this QR code or go to the website for more information. So what does that mean if you currently have an A1 printer? Well, there's a couple of options available for you. One of them is that you can keep the printer and basically get the replacement heat bed get sent out to you. You can then replace it yourself and they'll give you a $120 voucher. The other alternative is you can send it back for a full refund, and if you do this as well, you will also get a voucher, so you'll get an $80 voucher to use on another one of their machines. So it's a pretty good option. Personally for me, I'm going to return mine and I'll probably pick up the A1 Mini just because I really like the look of that machine. It's also worthwhile considering that all of the postage is paid for, so you don't need to post it back at your own expense, which is good. And it looks as though you're also going to be able to expense back any like packaging materials. If you want to put some foam in there, make sure it's nice and secure. If you've already thrown away the box, for example, you can go off and you can expense that back. They said they will cover all of the costs associated with this. So all in all, it's a really good look for Bambu Lab, considering that they had this, relatively serious printer problem here. So it was a good step for them. They're taking care of it. They're doing a decent job of communicating. But obviously, I don't want to fanboy too much about that because I don't think it's all completely altruistic. I don't think they're doing it all because they absolutely love their customers. They might be, and that's also something worth considering, but there's also a lot more that goes on behind the scenes with this sort of thing. So what should you do if you currently have a printer? Personally, even if you're confident replacing the heat bed, I would still send the printer back for a refund. And my main reasoning behind this is that they're going to be re-engineering the printer. So what that looks like, we don't know at this stage, but they've said they're re-engineering it, and that's one of the reasons why they're actively recalling these at this stage. So you could end up replacing it and basically having a printer that works fine, which is, that's all fine and well and good and everything. But if they re-engineer the printer, there's going to be a Mark 1 or like the first one, and then there's going to be a revised version of that, and that will probably hurt the resale value of the current printer you've got. So even if you do the replacements, you get it working. If you go to sell that in the future, it's always going to have that stigma of being like the first one, and you probably have to disclose that it is like the Mark 1 printer versus the revised one that comes out in the future. There might not be much of a difference, to be fair, but who knows? So personally, I wouldn't take that chance. I would just like to refund it, and then when it comes available in the future, rebuy it, or like I said, I'm going to go for something like the A1 Mini. Also, with the voucher that they're giving you, something like the P1P or the P1S is also a really good alternative as well. It does become more expensive because if you have the AMS Lite versus the standard AMS, then that's also going to be a bigger, price difference, but it's just worthwhile considering your options. So I mentioned previously that I didn't want to fanboy too much about it, but my thoughts on the whole situation is they've handled it really well. We all know that companies can sometimes try to fob off their issues and not necessarily deal with them, which is really frustrating. So in my opinion, they've done a really good job. They've given a lot of good answers. They've been really good in communicating this, trying to email people, obviously putting the message that comes up on the machine as well. So there's a lot of good stuff that they've done here. Like I mentioned, I don't think it's necessarily all altruistic and the absolute level of their customers. Bambu Lab is still relatively new on the scene, so having something quite new in their journey and happening early on that is relatively this big could be quite catastrophic for their reputation. If one of the machines did catch fire and it caused a big issue and they hadn't handled it particularly well, they would be called out for that as well. So there's a lot of stuff that's happening there. Also, this just helps to generate a bit more goodwill. It keeps all that fan base there. Been nothing worse than having a potential issue with a machine and then just fobbing everyone off and saying, just deal with it yourself. So although they've done a really good job and hats off to them for that, there's always going to be things behind the scenes. They are a business at the end of the day and they exist to make money. And they don't want to have something catastrophic happen to their reputation, especially when they're so early on in building that fan base. So all in all, good news for consumers. If you've bought one of these machines, you can send it back for a full refund, also get your voucher so you can buy another one of their machines. You can hang on to it as well if you want to, and then just get the voucher from them. So completely up to you, but hats off to Bambu Lab for handling it this well, and I guess all's well that ends well at this stage. Does mean that some people will be without their printer for quite some time, unfortunately, and getting it all shipped back. But you know what, hopefully it's not going to take too long. They said it'll take about 3 weeks from returning the printer to get your refund transferred to you, so that's not too long to wait, and ultimately worthwhile doing just in case. So let me know in the comments your thoughts on this situation. Throw it down there. Do you have an A1? Is it something that's frustrating you? Is it something you're not too bothered about? If you are returning it for a refund, are you buying another one of their machines, or are you going elsewhere? Or are you just not 3D printing at all? And whilst we're here, if you want to pick up one of these incredible t-shirts, then head on over to Into the AM. My link is down below in the description, and you can grab my discount code there as well. They fit really well. They've got some crazy designs as well, which is always pretty funky. And yeah, it just helps to support the channel a little bit. And while you're down there, hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.